Welcome to sleep with myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond time, where gods dream and stories remember their light. Part 1: The Gift of the Fire. Before mankind had words to name the stars, before the first dawn had stretched its fingers across the dark, there was only cold. The earth lay in silence, still, waiting, untouched. In that hush, the gods watched from their distant thrones, content that mortals should crawl and shiver beneath the heavens. But one god could not bear the sight. Prometheus, whose name meant forethought, looked upon humanity not with disdain, but with pity. He saw in their trembling hands the faint outline of what they could become: builders, dreamers, creators. Yet without warmth, without fire, they would remain ghosts of their potential. And so, beneath the sky of sleepless stars, Prometheus made his choice. He climbed the slopes of Olympus, where the sacred flame of creation burned, the fire that was life, thought, and rebellion intertwined. The other gods guarded it jealously, for they knew that flame carried more than heat. It carried will. But Prometheus, clever as the rivers and swift as wind, reached into the divine hearth and cupped a spark in his hands. It burned without pain, for in that moment he was both thief and savior. Descending through storm and shadow, he crossed the world until he came to humankind's hollow shelters. They watched him in awe, eyes wide, hearts silent. Without a word, Prometheus knelt and set the spark upon the earth. The flame caught in dry grass, and the night bloomed in gold. Mankind wept. For the first time the cold fled, and the gods stirred. For the first time Olympus trembled with anger. When the smoke of mortal fires rose into the sky, the heavens shook with fury. From his throne of thunder, Zeus watched the glow spread like forbidden stars across the earth. He had given mankind breath, but not power, and Prometheus had broken the oldest law, that knowledge was for the gods alone. The air trembled. Storms gathered above Olympus, their lightning writhing like serpents eager to strike. The other gods watched in uneasy silence. Some pitied the Titan's defiance, others envied his courage. But none dared speak, for Zeus's rage was a tempest that swallowed reason whole. "Fire is the breath of the divine," Zeus roared, "and he has given it to clay. Let him learn what it means to burn." Prometheus stood before the storm, unbowed. The scent of smoke still clung to him, the smoke of hope. Even as Zeus's thunder split the sky, he did not plead. He only said, "Would you rather rule over silence? They will learn to build, to think, to dream. That is what it means to live." Zeus's eyes, pale as lightning, burned through him. Then live as they will, chained, and waiting for mercy that never comes. The decree was made. Chains forged by Hephaestus himself, links of unbreakable adamantine, were carried to the edges of the world. There, where the wind howled and the sky kissed the void, stood the lonely cliffs of the Caucasus. Prometheus was bound to the stone. Wrists torn, body still, face turned toward the endless horizon he had tried to enlighten. The gods left him in silence. Only the wind spoke his name. And yet, even as the storm passed and night fell, a faint glow lingered in the dark, not from Olympus, but from the fires below. The humans had kept the flame alive. Prometheus smiled, for though he was chained, the fire was free. The days bled into nights, and nights into centuries. Prometheus hung against the jagged cliffs, his shadow carved into the stone like a scar that time refused to heal. The chains of adamantine bit deep into his flesh. Each sunrise seared him anew. Then came the beating of wings. Out of the clouds, vast and terrible, descended the eagle of Zeus, born of storm and vengeance. Its cry split the mountains. Its talons glimmered with divine iron, and its eyes burned like twin suns. Each day it came, as dawn's first light brushed the horizon, and each day it feasted upon the Titan's liver, the seat of will and endurance. Prometheus did not scream. He had no tears left to give the sky. When night came, the wound would close, and his heart would begin again. Not in peace, but in defiance. He learned to count the world not by hours, but by the rhythm of the eagle's wings. The silence before it came. The rush of feathers against the wind. The sharpness of agony that became, somehow, familiar, almost sacred. Below him, far across the valleys and oceans, the fire he had stolen still burned. Humanity rose from the ashes of its own fear. They forged iron and language. They built walls and dreams. Each spark that leapt from their hearths whispered his name. And though Zeus's eagle tore his flesh, Prometheus's laughter echoed faintly across the dawn. For every drop of blood that fell from his wounds became a spark that fell to earth. And where it landed, fire bloomed. In the silence after pain, the mountain spoke. Not in words, but in the groaning of stone, in the sighs that lived within the wind. Each echo that reached Prometheus's ears carried something older than grief, the murmuring of earth herself. "Endure," it whispered. "The world below is not done learning your fire." He had once been proud of his defiance, but now it had become devotion. His suffering had shaped him into something neither god nor mortal, a keeper of endurance, a silent hymn to the will of creation. The snows came and went. Seasons died and were reborn, like sparks caught in the rhythm of breath. Mortals, down in the lowlands, forgot the Titan's name, but still they fed their hearths. Still they prayed to the flame that warmed their homes. Prometheus could almost hear them, the crackle of burning wood, the laughter around light. Sometimes, when thunder rolled over the peaks, he would imagine it was Zeus himself, still angry, still watching. Other times, he thought it might be the heartbeat of the earth answering his pain with her own. Once, a storm broke so fierce that the clouds wrapped around him like living smoke. Lightning struck the cliffs again and again until the air smelled of iron and ozone. Yet even then, the fire in his spirit did not fade. He remembered the day he had shaped mankind, their fragile bones, their trembling breath. He had seen the divine potential hidden behind mortal weakness, and he had believed. That belief burned brighter than the chains that held him. Far below, the mountains listened. They carried his voice in secret rivers, in seeds that split the soil, in hearts that refused to surrender. The gods may have silenced his name, but the world itself remembered. And on one rare morning, when the sun rose red over the horizon, the mountain exhaled warmth. For the first time in ages, Prometheus felt the faintest flicker of peace. He whispered into the wind, "Even if I am forgotten, the fire remembers." The sun rose pale and trembling, as if afraid to look upon the wound of eternity. Prometheus, bound upon the mountain, no longer knew the measure of ages. The eagle still came. Its cry still tore the heavens. But somewhere beneath the rhythm of pain, a change had begun to stir. Mortals were dreaming of him again. They dreamt of a man who reached into the dark and brought back flame. They whispered of a heart that refused to die. In temples, poets sang of defiance turned to love. In the glow of their fires, children stared into the embers and saw his reflection there. Not in chains, but as light itself. Each word, each song, each story breathed upward, like incense carried by wind. And though he could not see them, Prometheus felt the world remembering. The mountain hummed with power. The chains trembled. Even the eagle hesitated. Its cry faltered, uncertain. One evening, as the last light bled from the sky, a figure climbed the cliffs. It was not a god, but a mortal, a wanderer whose heart had been guided by dreams. He carried no weapon, only a torch. When he reached the summit, he stood before the bound Titan and said softly, "Your fire burns in us all. I came to return what you gave." Prometheus gazed into the mortal's eyes alight with courage, sorrow, and gratitude. The torch's flame flared suddenly bright, reflecting in his chains. And then, for the first time in millennia, he felt warmth not born of pain but of kinship. The mountain wind rose and the air grew gold. The eagle screamed and vanished into the storm. The chains cracked, splintered, and from the breaks, light poured like molten dawn. Prometheus fell to his knees. He did not rise as a god or a rebel, but as the guardian of a promise that the fire of will would never fade. Far below, in the valleys of humankind, every hearth burned a little brighter. The stars above flickered, as if bowing to the one who had once defied them. The world turned toward morning, and Prometheus, reborn in the quiet blaze of 1,000 hearts, finally smiled. The world has turned many times since the mountain opened its eyes. The story of Prometheus has passed from voice to voice, softened by ages, reshaped by faith. Yet the flame at its heart has never gone out. In the quiet spaces between worlds, the Titan still breathes. He no longer feels the bite of chains or the shadow of eagles. Instead, he wanders through the dreams of humankind, through every candle lit in morning, every fire built in hope, every spark born from defiance. He has become the warmth that lives between stars. When sailors light their lanterns upon the edge of night, he watches. When a blacksmith shapes iron with trembling hands, he guides. When lovers find each other by the light of a hearth, he listens. For even love burns like fire, fierce and fleeting. The gods have long grown silent, yet their echoes remain. Zeus, once the thunder of judgment, is now only the rumble before rain. But Prometheus endures not as a god, but as a memory that refuses to fade. Because memory, like flame, is never truly destroyed. It only changes shape. Some say that on certain nights, when the wind is clear and the stars are low, the mountains still glow faintly red. They say you can hear a whisper in the stone, not of pain, but of purpose. Take this fire, it says, and make it your own. And so humankind continues to dream, to build, to defy the dark. For in every creation, in every song, every word, every heartbeat that dares to love, the old fire wakes again, sleeps but never dies. As dawn returns to the mountain where it all began, a single ember flickers amid the snow. It is small, almost invisible, but eternal. And if you listen closely, you can hear it breathe. Thank you for listening to Sleep with Myth. May your dreams be warm with the light that remembers.